everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. It has been a very long time since I said that. I took an impromptu break over the summer. I haven't filmed, I think, since like May, and it is now almost the end of September. So it's been a while, but I am coming back for the fall, and so I wanted to do a little check-in, wrap-up kind of video to say hi, tell you where I've been, what's been going on, and what I've been reading. So start with kind of like why I took an impromptu break, a couple of like life updates, and then just what I've been reading over the summer months, although it's not going to be a very detailed wrap-up because it's covering books that I read over 3 months, and I think I have, it's like 20 something, it's like almost 30 books to cover. So we're not going in depth. It's more of just like a, this is what I read. Although some of these may get dedicated videos to them in the future. We'll see. Okay, so where I've been. As I said, I took an impromptu break over the summer. If you're not interested in this part and you just want to know what I have been reading, I'll put timestamp in the description. The short version is I just needed a break. If you want a slightly longer version of kind of like why I took a break, a lot of it is just, you know, I've been on BookTube for like 7-ish years now. I started in 2017. I've taken short breaks before, or sometimes I've just had like lulls in my reading or content creation, but I've never taken like an extended break, and I think I just needed to, you know, even with good things, even with things that you enjoy, sometimes you just need a break from them, which was sort of the case here. Like, I love having this channel, I love reading and getting to talk to all of you about what I've been reading and hear your thoughts and all of that, but I think I just needed like a little bit of a break. The kind of timeline of what happened is that in May, like first half of the year, reading was going pretty well, and then in May I just had no motivation to read. I just felt very burned out on reading for some reason. So instead of like forcing myself to read and trying to push through a slump, I decided to just completely take a break, to not read, to just decide I'm not reading anything in May, even if I want to read, no. Just to take off any pressure that might be on my reading, which of course is only ever pressure that I put on myself, and usually I am very careful to not put pressure on my reading because that would take the fun out of it. But the fact is, having a YouTube channel that is dedicated to talking about what I read kind of inherently puts pressure on reading, because in order to have content, I have to read things. So I just wanted to kind of take any perceived pressure that might be on my reading off. And I think that worked really well. It was nice to have a break. By the time June rolled around, I felt like reading again, but by then I, one, didn't have a lot of content to create because I hadn't been reading for a month, and two, I just kind of was liking this idea of like taking an intentional break, and not the type of break that I have done in the past a lot of times where it was like I wanted to be making, like wanted to be reading or filming, or felt like I should be, but I just wasn't, and so then it wasn't really a break. And so taking an intentional break was just an idea that I really liked. And also, from being on YouTube for so many years, I know that over the summer, both my reading and my content creation usually like has a real lull. Summer is just not a season of motivation for me. And so I was like, you know what, instead of, again, trying to push through it, I'm just going to kind of intentionally take a break. Now, probably could have communicated that better instead of just disappearing for 3 months. But by this point, I was just feeling very enamored with the idea of just disappearing from the internet for a couple of months, you know? So that's pretty much it. There was no like dramatic reason why. I just needed a break from all of it, but I am glad to be back. I think, you know, fall, winter, spring, all good seasons of motivation for me. So hopefully I will be reading and filming and much more present, and we'll see what happens next summer. If this becomes like a thing that I just take a break for the summer, or if I only needed it to do it once. We'll find out, you know. But that's pretty much it. Then for a couple of updates, one update is, if you haven't noticed, I cut my hair. We're back to the short hair, which I am very pleased with. I love it. And then my actual like big life update is that I just moved. So I moved to a new apartment at the end of August. So I have been here for about a month now, and I am really liking this apartment. It is not very far from where I was before. It's just a little bit more central. I'm literally right next door to the library, and very close to like the train and everything. So it's a really nice area that I am very happy to be here. I'm also just really liking the apartment itself. I am in the process of decorating it. This is actually the first apartment that I have lived in by myself. I've always lived with other people, and so I am really like getting to decorate for the first time and like set up a whole apartment on my own, which is very fun and exciting, but also a lot of work and kind of exhausting. But I really want to create a space that I really love being in and feels very like me and very homey and cozy. If you would be interested in any apartment content, let me know. Maybe I can do, I don't know, like an apartment tour or something once it gets all set up. It probably wouldn't be for a couple of months because I am kind of slowly but surely decorating and buying all of the things that I need. But if you're interested in that, let me know. But that is also why I'm gonna have to see how the audio comes out on this, because I am filming in my bedroom and there's not a lot in here yet. Like I have these bookcases, I have my bed, I have like a vanity table and a mirror and lamp and that kind of stuff, but the walls are still pretty bare right now because I haven't fully decorated in here. So I feel like it might be a smidge echoey. So we'll have to see how the audio comes out. So bear with me as I figure out my new filming setup for like audio and lighting and all of that. But I am hoping that once I get things more set up, that maybe I'll be able to do more like vlogging and things, because I'll have more space available to me that like is mine and that I've decorated, and there aren't other people around listening to me talk to myself and stuff. So maybe I'll be able to do that. I'm hoping to maybe do some more like sewing content kind of stuff. We'll see. The other thing I just wanted to say, in case anybody is wondering about the dogs. So the dogs didn't come with me because they're not actually my dogs. I always call them mine because I love them as if they are mine, but they are actually my parents' dogs. I am actually very close to where my parents are, so I borrow their dogs sometimes because I love them very much, and then I can't resist taking pictures of them and putting them in videos and things because they're so cute and I love them so much. So I always referred to them as my dogs because I love them as my own, but they're actually my parents' dogs, so they did not come with me, and they are happy living their best lives at home with my parents. However, I do eventually want to get my own dog. This building that I'm in now does allow dogs, so eventually I am going to get my own dog, which I am very excited about, but I'm gonna have to wait at least a few months because I want to really settle in before I do that, so that I can like bring the dog into a stable environment. Anyway, so those are my life updates. Now let's get into the books. So over June, July, and August, I read 28 books. So almost 10 books a month, which was really great for me considering how I just didn't read anything in May, and then over the summer I was reading almost 10 books a month. It was a huge improvement. Most of them were audiobooks, and I'm not going to go through them like necessarily in chronological order. I'm going to kind of group things together just because there's so many. So first group I'm going to talk about is what was kind of like my summer project, which was rereading all of Tamara Pierce's Tortall books, except for Tempest and Slaughter. I didn't reread that one just because that series isn't finished. But I reread all of her other Tortall series, which was so much fun. Tamara Pierce's books were really the books that got me into reading as a kid, and I have reread them multiple times, but it's been a really long time since I've reread them, so it was very fun to come back and re-experience them. There are definitely things about them that like my either thoughts and opinions have changed or my awareness of certain things have changed. I do think I'm going to do a dedicated video, or maybe more than one, to like the world of the Tortall books. Some of the things I'm considering filming, I'm probably going to film, and then we'll see how they turn out and what I decide to use. But I'm thinking of doing a review of all of the books. I also am considering doing like a where to start with her books, which I might combine with the review just because it's not very, like, there's not tons to say. It's not very complicated of where to start, but I thought it might be good to include. And then I also was considering doing like a tier ranking of all of the Tortall books. So I'm probably going to film those, see what seems to work and what doesn't. But if you have any opinions as to what you would like to see, let me know in the comments. But okay, so as for these series themselves, I'm just on a very high level going to touch on them. I read them in publication order, which is almost chronological order except for one series that is like a prequel that she wrote later on. But I started with The Song of the Lioness, which is following Alana. I really loved this. It was such a fun series to revisit. This is one of the ones that there are certain elements of how she dealt with some topics that didn't age well, but overall as a story, I think that the like storytelling element of it did hold up very well over time. Then the next series is the Immortals Quartet, which follows Dane, who, this was my favorite Tortall series as a kid because it involves both speaking to animals and healing magic, and I was like, the best. This is the best. The next series after that is Protector of the Small, which follows Kel, who, you know, when I was a kid, this was one of my least favorite series, but I think that my opinions have really changed. A lot of these series, my opinions have changed quite a bit over time as to which kind of stories and characters I liked most. So I really enjoyed the Kel series this time around way more than I did as a kid. Then there is the Trickster duology following Allie, who is the daughter of one of the characters from a previous book. And this was another one that I really loved when I was younger. I think I didn't enjoy it as much this time around, but it was still really interesting to revisit. And then the final series was the Becca Cooper trilogy, which this is kind of the prequel that follows the ancestor of one of the characters that we have met in some of the other series. And another one that the first time I read it, I really didn't enjoy it that much, but rereading it now, I really loved this series. So that was like very, very little information about each of them, but I am going to be doing videos where I get a little bit more into it. I had a couple of other rereads. I reread a lot in the summer. So one of my rereads was Spear by Nicola Griffith, which is like a queer gender bent novella retelling of the story of Percival from the Arthurian legends. And I read this, I think, last year, and I have a dedicated video review for it, so I will link that in the description if you would like to know more about it. But I really enjoyed it. Again, I really like her writing and the atmosphere. Another reread, which then kind of kicked off a genre binge, was Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. I had this like strong urge to reread this. So this is a YA contemporary, and I loved rereading it. Like, I really enjoyed this book the first time I read it a couple of years ago, but I think I loved it even more on reread. I love the main character so much. What I really appreciated about rereading it this time is that I think that I, like, going into it kind of knowing what the story was about, I was able to really appreciate the internal journey that Felix goes through way more this time, because like there are, you know, friendship drama and romance and like all of these other things happening, but the real heart of the story is about Felix going on this internal journey to better understand and accept himself, and learning to love himself and allowing others to love him. And I love an internal journey, and I gave this 5 stars on reread. I think I gave it 4 stars before, but 5 stars on reread. And then after that, I really wanted to read more like YA contemporaries. So I was looking for something. I was still kind of in the mood for something similar to Felix Ever After, and I saw some recommendations to read I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. And I liked this one as well. I think I didn't like it quite as much as Felix Ever After because it didn't have that emphasis on the internal journey as much, although that is still an element within the story. But I really enjoyed it, and I still gave that one 4 stars. And then after that, I read She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan, which is like a YA contemporary sports romance between these 2 girls. One of them is a cheerleader, one is on the basketball team, and it is like, you know, hate to love. And this is one that I think I have kind of like, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. It's not necessarily one that is going to like stick with me long term, but I did think it was very fun. I really liked the characters, and also I think that they like executed the like hate to love really well. I think a lot of times, just in general, but I think especially in sapphic romances, they tend to make the romance just move really quickly, don't really give a lot of time to the build-up, and especially don't give enough time to the hate stage so that the slow progression to like love is satisfying in like the arc of the story. And I think that this one did a really good job of actually executing a hate to love, so that was really great. I also finally finished reading The Boar Stone by Jules Watson. This is the 3rd and final book in the Dalriada trilogy. The first one was The White Mare, which I read the first 2 books earlier this year and loved them, and this 3rd one is kind of a companion sequel to that series. It takes place like 300 years after the original 2 books, following some descendants from the characters in the original books. I did not really enjoy this book. I actually started it in like April or May. This was one of the books that I was reading when in May I just like hit a slump and decided not to read anymore. And like, I don't know if this contributed to it or not, but I just really wasn't enjoying this book. I think it really didn't use a lot of the strengths that the original 2 books had, just like didn't apply to this. I think the characters weren't as well realized. I think the relationships were more shallow. I don't feel like the relationships had enough like time dedicated and build up. And so there were just some elements about the relationships themselves that made me like a very hard sell on this. So overall, really did not enjoy this one. I'm probably going to have a series review for all 3 of them, so I'll get a little bit more into like what precisely I didn't enjoy in that book, in that one, because it would take too long right now. But I think the first two, like reading as a duology, was great. This third one felt very unnecessary to me. I also read Chalice by Robin McKinley. I have been wanting to try another Robin McKinley book because I have read a few of her books and they just like never quite work for me. But Kara had mentioned that Chalice involves like earth magic, and so that was very intriguing to me, and then Kara very kindly gifted the book to me, so thank you very much for that. So I did read Chalice, and I did really enjoy the earth magic elements of it. The main character does have like a connection to the earth, and she has this special role of like kind of holding the earth together. She also has a special connection to bees, and I do really enjoy when stories like have a lot of bee imagery in them. So if you like books with lots of bees, you may like this because it does have a lot about her relationship to the bees. The actual like characters and plot really didn't make an impression on me. I remember almost nothing about them. Mostly what I remember is just like bees. So I think that Robin McKinley just may not be an author for me. Her books, even if I don't dislike them, they just never really do much for me. They never stick with me or like leave much of an impression on me. I also read The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Maxey, and I thought this was very cute. It's a very sweet book. I actually kind of read it twice because I listened to the audiobook and then read the ebook, not like together. I did one and then the other. It's very short, so it was like, you know, it took no time to do that. But I think that like both versions of it I really liked because I liked being able to hear it, but also there's something about like I wanted to see the illustrations and see the words too. So I think that I just enjoyed both ways of reading it. I think that, you know, from the hype that this book has received, I maybe expected a little bit more from it, but it wasn't bad. It is very like sweet and I can see why people like it, but I think that my expectations based on like the hype around it were like maybe a little too high. And then we're coming towards the end. I also read volumes 3 and 4 of Witch Hat Atelier, which is a manga series about a little girl who is learning to be a witch that uses like a written form of magic. It's very cute, and I'm continuing on in the series. I then also read Idiot Verse, which is a very short book of poetry, which I thought was okay. Like, I didn't have strong feelings about it. I'm not really even sure how I ended up reading this book. I think maybe I saw one of the poems from this book like on Instagram or something, and I liked it, and then I hunted it down and got the book, and then by the time I read the book I couldn't remember which poem it was that I had originally liked, and then I just like felt very middle of the road about the book as a whole. And then I also read a nonfiction book called Measure What Matters: How Google, Bono, and the Gates Foundation Rock the World with OKRs, which are about it's a nonfiction book about like setting metrics for a business. One of the projects that I am working on at work has a lot to do with metrics, and so from a previous job knew someone who read this book and used a lot of things from it, so I decided to read it and see if it was helpful. It does have a couple of good ideas, but honestly I don't think it needs to be a book. This has been happening, I think, with a lot of nonfiction I've been reading recently. Not that I've been reading a lot of nonfiction, but the nonfiction I've been reading recently, mostly I've been feeling like this could have been like an article, maybe a long blog post. It really didn't need to be like a 300-page book. So it had some good ideas, but really didn't need to be a full book. Okay, so I think those are all of the books that I read over the summer. But thank you all for watching. I'd love to know, how was your summer? I know it's fall now, we're in September, but I wasn't here to ask you before. How was your summer? How was your reading over the summer? Do you feel like you read more or less? Because I think a lot of people assume you read more over the summer because people often have more free time, but I always read less over the summer. So I'd love to know, how was your summer reading? But thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.